and welcome. I'm Asuma Katauka and you're watching World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the headlines. Canadian Foreign Minister Anita Anand and Chinese counterpart Wang Yi has met in Beijing to address long-standing trade disputes over canola and electric vehicles. Both sides have stressed the need for regular and candid communication amid tensions following China's anti-dumping duties on Canadian canola and Canada's 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has filed a lawsuit challenging President Donald Trump's $100,000 H-1B visa fee, claiming it exceeds his legal authority. The group has warned that the high cost could force many businesses to abandon the H-1B program entirely. Pakistan and Afghanistan have extended their 48-hour ceasefire until the talks in Doha conclude, aiming to halt further violence after days of fierce fighting that has killed dozens and wounded hundreds, as Pakistan demands the Taliban curb militants operating from Afghanistan, which Taliban spokesperson denies and blames Pakistan for tensions. Kremlin envoy Kirill Dmitriev has proposed an $8 billion Trump-Putin tunnel under the Bering Strait to connect Russia's Chukotka region with Alaska, calling it a symbol of unity between the two nations. He has claimed the project could be completed in less than 8 years and even suggested that a company owned by Elon Musk could build it. Chinese exporters are shifting away from the U.S. market amid tariffs and trade tensions, with many saying they have given up on American buyers. Despite the disruption, China's exports rose 7.1% to $2.8 trillion in the first 9 months of this year, as companies turn to Europe, Latin America, the Middle East, and Africa to offset U.S. losses. Former Trump National Security Advisor pleads not guilty to charges of mishandling classified information, making him the third Trump opponent charged in recent weeks. The 76-year-old faces up to 10 years in prison per count as he vows to prove his innocence. The United States and Brazil have stated that they aim to arrange a meeting between President Donald Trump and President Lula da Silva as soon as possible after positive trade talks in Washington. The discussions were attended by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Trade Representative Greer, and Brazilian Foreign Minister Mauro Vieira. British Petroleum has said that fire has been extinguished at its refinery in Indiana, the largest in the U.S. Midwest, after reports that multiple units were offline and the facility was actively flaring early today. BP has confirmed sirens and flaring were part of safety measures, but has not disclosed the current operational status of the refinery. Now we start from China. China has launched one of its biggest military purges in decades. The Chinese Communist Party has expelled 9 top generals, accusing them of serious financial and duty-related crimes. Those removed include Vice-Chairman He Weidong, one of China's highest-ranking military officials, after Chinese President Xi Jinping. The generals also face military persecution. The Defense Ministry has said that their actions caused extremely serious consequences and mark a major success in the party's anti-corruption drive. However, analysts say the move also signals a political purge, coming just before a key party meeting on China's economic plan. The crackdown follows months of internal investigations and earlier removals of senior defense leaders. The campaign extends beyond the military, with several civilian officials, including former Foreign Minister Qin Gang, also vanishing from public view. Now for this discussion, we're joined by Alison Mutler. She's a former AP Bureau Chief in Romania, joins us live from Bucharest. Thank you very much, Alison, for joining us again. Good to see you. Thank you. Now, looking at this news, to what extent do you think China's recent purge of these officials are driven by anti-corruption versus internal political consolidation ahead of the upcoming party meeting?
The official message that it's an anti-corruption drive, and that is to send a strong message. But most likely the real reason is it's a political purge to promote loyalty to Xi Jinping and to scare anybody who thinks that they might be disloyal to the Xi Jinping, the Chinese leader. So I would say it's an anti-political drive to people who are considered insufficiently loyal to the Chinese president.
Does this have any implications for regional stability, also EU-China relations?
China watchers, because China is an extremely important global player, will be watching this. They'll be wondering what's behind it. Of course, nobody believes or they think the official statement is it's a tiny part of the truth, because surely these are not the only corrupt, if they are corrupt, these are not the only corrupt officials in the Chinese political apparatus. So there'll be lots of questions why it's happening, who he's getting rid of, who are the new loyalists. And those will be watched both regionally, but also at the level of the EU, which does trade with China, but has a certain amount of caution, a certain amount of wariness with China. So I think there'll be a lot of trying to decipher what's happening inside China, inside the Politburo, inside the political making machine, what is going on and what the next steps are and who are the new people that Xi Jinping is going to surround himself, and who they are and what their policies are and what their standing is and what their view is on sort of global trade and China's politics.
Right. And does this military and civilian crackdown, does this have any impact on China's domestic stability and its strategic posture internationally?
Domestically, yes, it sends a very strong message, probably all the way down to sort of town, village party, that you have to be loyal to the Chinese Politburo, well, not Politburo, but the Chinese Party, Communist Party, the Chinese Party leadership. It means there is no room for dissent, there is no room from straying from the official line. So I think it will send a message of fear. It will make party officials, as I said, all the way down the hierarchy, all the way down to the villages, much more obedient and more fearful. Perhaps, corruption was allowed at some level, but that will be seen. I think officials will be more afraid of straying from, what the law is in China now. And regionally, I think also people will be looking, what is the new China? What is Xi Jinping trying to do? What is his new path forward? Because he has done this as a show of strength, to show that he's in charge and he will not tolerate any dissent, whether it's anti-corruption or political.
With that, I would like to thank Alison Mutler for joining us and sharing that insight all the way from Bucharest. Thank you. Now we move on to our next news. As the rule over the ban placed on visiting Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from their team's upcoming clash with British side Aston Villa intensifies, fans are now voicing their issues with the decision to outright ban the visiting Israeli fans from the game. Here's what Elliot Pollack, chair of Jewish Villan's Jewish Aston Villa fan club in Birmingham, has said.
The idea that there'll be thousands of Israelis flying in for this game is probably a little misleading. I suspect a lot of the away tickets, would be brought by Jewish people within London, Birmingham, Manchester, who have an opportunity to have an Israeli flag in a public space, be proud of their identity, their Jewish identity, be proud of Israel, and would go. I know lots of people had asked me about the game who weren't Israeli, weren't Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters, supported other clubs in England, but wanted to go to the game as an opportunity. In the same way, if a Turkish club came, the Turkish diaspora would, etc. So this idea that we're only discriminating against Israelis here is completely untrue. A vast swathe of that support would be Jewish people from the United Kingdom.
Fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv, meanwhile, feel that the match should be shifted elsewhere in the UK if the West Midlands police is unsure about safety in Birmingham. Let's listen in.
They can't allow us to come for security reasons. They should move the game, maybe to another city in the UK. I know of friends that already bought tickets to the UK to be at the game, and they have nothing to do right now with this ticket. I'm sure there will be Maccabi Tel Aviv fans outside. They will come to the game. Or, as I said, they already have tickets. I have friends that already have tickets to the UK. They have tickets to other games on Saturday or on Sunday in the UK. They made a football trip out of it, what football should be.
The decision was taken by the Safety Advisory Group on the advice of West Midlands Police after Maccabi Tel Aviv's previous European outing against Dutch side Ajax in Amsterdam ended in riots between pro-Palestine protesters and the visiting Israeli fans. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has called the decision the wrong one and stated that anti-Semitism will not be tolerated. The match is set to be played on the 6th of November in Birmingham as part of the Europa League. Now for this discussion, we're joined by Matti Zweig. He's a geopolitical expert, joins us live from Tel Aviv. Thank you very much, Matti, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at this, what do you think, what was the motive behind this decision announced by UK? Do you think that this was purely to safeguard the fans, Israeli fans, coming to Birmingham, or do you think this is anti-Semitic?
Well, safety is very important for the police. But during the years, you have been concerns and all kinds of concerns of security in all Europe when the British hooligans go to other countries and no one banned them. I mean, they want only the violence. In any case, also in the UK, if the local hooligans or Maccabi fans are going to behave in violence, so the police should take care of this. But this is another thing. We are looking now to a new world, a world where a Western country like the UK has some areas that they are going to be exclusively for what? Muslim voters? Only Muslim countries can send people to play soccer there? I mean, this exclusive ban on Maccabi fans is totally irrational and against all laws. Because if FIFA or UEFA are going to ban Israel for competing like they did in the past with Russia, Belarus, etc., this is one thing. Of course, in Israel, they are not going to like it, but this is one thing. But to ban private people from going to show support to their team, I mean, it's a shame. It's a shame that because of Birmingham has a lot of Muslim people, Maccabi cannot go and play there. So this is a country that is going backwards, that is going with their back to the future of Europe and themselves. So I hope they are going to change their behavior. But of course, that in a personal way, thousands of people without the Maccabi t-shirt maybe are going to buy the tickets and go to see Maccabi playing in Birmingham. But this is not the issue. The issue is the UK's behavior and not being firm in things and basic values. They should have been much firmer than now.
And Matti, what do you think this decision reflects about UK being a democratic country which should be protecting the freedom of movement and non-discrimination? And also just we saw recently that there was a synagogue attack in UK, and British Prime Minister swore in that he is going to secure or heighten the security towards Jewish people.
Surrendering to anti-Semitism is not the solution. Surrendering to basic values of the Western world, this is not the solution. I mean, what is the next step? To exclude all teams from Israel from playing there, say, okay, we are very concerned about your security, let's play in Sicily or in Malta, or what is the next step? I mean, this is not going to stop until the government has a very clear stand on what is acceptable and what is of hatred or discrimination, because today is Israel and tomorrow there are different countries. I mean, this is a slippery road. It must be attacked in all their ways, in the same way that Islamophobia must be attacked. I mean, if a peaceful Muslim Pakistani family is going to be attacked, they must be protected. And the same with Jewish, same with everybody. I mean, they must put some red line to all this behavior. And they must start with their own behavior.
Yes, Maddie, I agree with you. Instead of banning people, they could increase the police control or security. Thank you very much, Maddie, for sharing that insight as a geopolitical expert from Tel Aviv. Now we stay in the region. The Egyptian foreign minister has commented on the India-Middle East corridor, IMEC, which connects India to Europe via the Middle East by sea and rail. He has stated that resolving the Palestinian issue is key to making progress on this project. IMEC was announced on the sidelines of the Group of 20 summit in September 2023 and is seen as a U.S. alternative to China's Belt and Road Initiative for global infrastructure development. However, with the breaking out of Gaza war on October 7, 2023, the projects witnessed little progress. The minister further mentioned that he discussed IMEC during talks with his Indian counterpart and added that Egypt is open to being part of the project. This statement comes as Foreign Affairs Minister of Egypt, Badr Abdelati, is on a visit to India and has earlier met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The corridor aims to extend from India across the Arabian Sea to the United Arab Emirates through Saudi Arabia and then connect through Jordan and Israel to Europe. India and the UAE have signed a framework agreement for this project last year. Now for this discussion, we go back to Matti Zweig. He's a geopolitical expert, joins us live from Tel Aviv. Thank you, Matti, for staying with us. Matti, in what ways could Egypt's potential participation in IMEC influence these geopolitical dynamics between India and Middle East and competing infrastructure initiatives like China's Belt and Road?
Well, this thing has going on for several years because the main concern from a lot of countries, and first of all, United States, of course, is the development of the Silk Road Initiative that had China for their own interest. I think nobody is going to oppose that they want to progress in their economic aims doing such a programs. But for United States, sorry, and the way they see China's development in some cases as a threat to security, they also have been developing all these initiatives that an alternative belt is going to be built between India, passing through the Arabian Peninsula and through Israel and going from there to Europe, etc., or North Africa if it's going to be calm and prosperity. So, of course, if Israel is going to have good relations with some kind of Palestinian government, is going to stabilize everything. Let's not forget that one of the main goals of the Iranians and other big powers that wanted to stop the relationship between Israel and Saudi Arabia, and they planned and did what it was then known as the 7th of October massacre. And then you can understand that it was a turn point to put a stone in the road of all these initiatives. Now this initiative is coming back. And of course now Egyptians and Indians and Saudi Arabians and Americans, they are all in the same side, trying to make this ceasefire or peace deal agreement go forward and have a better future in order to have this alternative belt really prospering, let's say. So that is the root of all the conversation between Badr Abdelati and the Indians and also other peoples in the area, that they are very interested that to have such a corridor with all the economic potential of cargo and maritime and also through the continent and a kind of Eurasian belt that is going to make all the world move in much better way that is doing today, and also in this way blocking some of the aspiration of China, which is undoubtedly the biggest competitor in any area, and not only economical, of the US.
Yes, Maddie, thank you very much for sharing that insight and giving us that history behind this. Thank you. Now we move on to our next news. Israeli strikes on South Lebanon have killed 1 person and injured 7 others. Footage of the strikes showed massive explosions and huge plumes of smoke. The Lebanese Health Ministry has said that 1 person was killed in Baalbek in eastern Lebanon, while 6 were injured in Nabateeh district, the south, and 1 in the coastal city of Sidon. The Israeli military has claimed that it had targeted several Hezbollah facilities and a site used by the environmental group Green Without Borders. It has accused the group, which is under U.S. sanctions, of being a front for Hezbollah. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has condemned the attack as a breach of the ceasefire in place since last year. Israel has been continuously striking in South Lebanon, targeting Hezbollah facilities. Now for this discussion, we're joined by Daniela Bloom. She's a political commentator, joins us live from Los Angeles. Thank you very much, Daniela, for joining us. Good to see you. Daniela, can you tell us a little bit about this environmental group called Green Without Borders, and what's their connection, if any, to Hezbollah?
Well, again, this was a targeted strike by the IDF, specifically on a facility that was carrying heavy machinery that looked like they had every reason to believe this was a facility that would embolden Hezbollah once again to gain strength in Lebanon. This was a targeted attack. There was only 1 civilian casualty. The president himself understands that there's no place in Lebanon for Hezbollah to gain strength again. And if there is not enough checks and balances on the ground, whether it's from him or the UN, then Israel will do what it needs to do to ensure that Hezbollah does not gain strength again.
And Daniela, can you tell us why in particular this ceasefire is so fragile and it's not holding up?
The whole area is fragile. It's very important, though, that we believe in peace through strength. This is why President Trump has been able to do the impossible. Without deterrence, without fear, we have nothing. Hezbollah gets his funds primarily from Iran, and Iran has been set back many, many years from the 12-day war operation back in June with the U.S. and Israel joining forces. It is fragile, but I also am encouraged by the recent Abraham Accords expanding and normalized relations through capitalism, as opposed to Islamic fundamentalism, hopefully turns a page in the Middle East.
Yes, hopefully. Thank you very much, Daniela, for sharing that insight as a political commentator from LA. Now we move on to our next news. Scuffles broke out and arrests were made as demonstrators continued outside the Broadview ICE facility in Chicago, United States. Dozens of protesters carrying signs, American flags, and wearing protective gear gathered outside the facility, chanting and shouting. The protests marks the 5th consecutive demonstrations at the Chicago Processing Center. Meanwhile, occasional pushing and shoving broke out between protesters and police officers, where the police has made at least 10 arrests in the first few hours of the protests. Some protesters have reacted to the situation. Let's listen into what they have said.
Trump is trying to get Chicago to bow down. He's trying to get the entire country to bow down to his authoritarianism. He's trying to take away every one of our rights, to say that we can't protest, we can't dissent, we can't stand up for our neighbors being illegally abducted. And we're out here to say we're not going to take that. We're going to keep exercising our rights. We're going to keep standing up for our neighbors. It's really disgusting what's happening right now, and it's completely antithetical to the Constitution and to every right that we have in this country.
What brought me out here today is seeing the amount of hatred, intolerance, and violence that have been enacted on people who are loving their country, who pledge their allegiance to this nation, who bleed red, white, and blue, who are proud American patriots. I think that's absolutely intolerable and inexcusable, something we should never stand for. I've personally been assaulted for holding an American flag. I've had the flag attempted to be ripped out of my hand and the flag broken in half. I think that's shameful. I've seen people threaten death on ice stations, tell them they're going to be dead in 2 years, they're going to be kidnapped, they're going to be assaulted. And regardless of your political opinion, you have the First Amendment right to stand here and voice your opinion peacefully. What you don't have the right to do is to threaten violence upon somebody or try to enact violence upon somebody.
Now for this discussion, we go back to Daniela Bloom. She's a political commentator, joins us live from LA. Thank you, Daniela, for staying with us. Now looking at this, what underlying political and social factors are driving these protests? And do you see any in LA as well?
Absolutely. We had major LA riots several months ago that resulted in tons of property damage, vandalism, physical altercations. And I was also around during the BLM riots of 2020 and 2021, where that ended up being $1 to $2 billion in damage across the nation. Trump is now back in office. And when you show that you cannot peacefully assemble, when you cannot govern yourselves in law and order, there will now be enforcement. And Trump is enacting just that. Unfortunately, under the Biden administration with open borders, many illegal aliens have been able to enter the country, a lot of them criminals, not all of them. But when you cross illegally, you are breaking the law, and sometimes you do need somewhat of an overcorrection to very irresponsible open border policies.
Thank you very much, Daniela, for joining us and sharing that insight throughout our news as a political commentator from LA. Now we move on to Asia. Tensions continue to escalate along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border as Pakistan's foreign ministry has condemned recent Afghan attacks as unprovoked actions aimed at destabilizing the border region. In a briefing, Pakistani Foreign Ministry spokesperson Shafqat Ali Khan has stated that the actions violate the peaceful and cooperative relations between the two nations. Let's listen in.
Pakistan is deeply concerned at the unwarranted aggression by the Afghan Taliban, Fitna al-Kharij, Fitna al-Hindustan, along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border on the nights of 11th, 12th, and then 14th, 15th October 2025. Such unprovoked actions aimed at destabilizing the Pakistan-Afghanistan border belied the overall spirit of peaceful neighborhood and cooperative relations between the two neighboring countries. Pakistan, exercising its right of self-defense, not only effectively repulsed the assaults all along the border, but also inflicted heavy losses on Taliban forces and affiliated terrorist groups operating from the Afghan soil in terms of men, material, and infrastructure. These infrastructures were used to plan and facilitate terrorist attacks against Pakistan. Our targeted and precise defensive response was not targeted towards the Afghan civilian population. Unlike Taliban forces, we exercise extreme caution in our defensive responses to avoid loss of civilian lives. Both sides are making sincere efforts to find a positive resolution to this complex but solvable issue through constructive dialogue. Pakistan greatly values dialogue and diplomacy and a mutually beneficial relationship with Afghanistan.
And that's a wrap on the World Report. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.